business, and shortly, in a few months, when we complete the process of public sector reforms in terms of telling our public officials of their new role in the Ruto administration, there will be no bureaucracy and red tape in matters, business and investment. I agree with the governor of Nairobi that the national government too is not at all impressed where when you walk to an office, you cannot tell the original color of the wall because the whole wall is full of multiple licenses. Those licenses must give way to show people, for people to appreciate the original color of the wall by having a single permit. So all permits should be collapsed under one. Finally, Your Excellency, as you ask the people of Kenya to pay taxes, as you mobilize the people of Kenya to accept their responsibility to pay taxes, those of us under you will also help you to make sure that those charged with the responsibility of collecting revenue do not criminalize tax payment. The taxpayers are our partners, and we continue to urge KRA to collect tax with dignity by respecting the taxpayer, and where there are challenges, let us continuously engage the taxpayers. The taxpayers are good people, and where they have challenges, through a continuous engagement process, we can always find out why there are challenges, surmount the challenges, and make sure that we collect more revenue for our beautiful country. And I want to confirm once more, I was in a meeting this morning with the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and we are noting that the new administration is keeping time in all our meetings. I want to confirm that the President of the Republic of Kenya is leading by example. The problem in this country is one of leadership. Once you put the proper leadership in place, everything else gets into place. A country is as good as its leadership. It is therefore important. It is therefore important for those who are not in the know. The new President of the Republic of Kenya has given instructions to all of us that he will not allow any public official, starting with the Deputy President going downwards, to keep the people of Kenya, investors, waiting for them even for 10 minutes because they have work to do. So we want to tell our CSs, our PSs, and no other officials downwards, you take the cue from the President. You keep time so that we allow Kenyans to go and do business and build their country. I don't want anybody to get in trouble with the new President. That's why I'm giving you this policy direction. Your Excellency, we want to say thank you very much. You have set the pace. I'm sure the new CSs are already acclimatizing to the way of doing things. The President yesterday told you that you'll have to work up to late hours, and requested your spouses to be reasonable, but we don't want you also to take advantage to do other things. The President is a family man, and he believes in the family unit, so let not a few of you take advantage of his advice, and he's requesting your spouses to be understanding to get out of the way. It is for the purposes of just making sure in office to work for the people of Kenya. Your Excellency, our deputy, I'll monitor so that we make sure they are in office doing the right thing. With those few remarks, it's now my privilege to ask you to be upstanding. We welcome the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. Please give him a heavy clap. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy President. Please, let's take our seats. I appreciate the moment to share with our taxpayers, and especially those who are on the top of the list. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be part of this very important occasion, because this year's National Taxpayers Day comes at a time of tremendous crisis as well as immense opportunity. It therefore calls for sober reflection, radical change, and resolute action to make our tax administration fairer, better, and aligned with the revenue policy of a nation in pursuit of self-reliance. As I stated earlier, the state of our public finances is unsatisfactory. Given this, how we proceed will determine whether we are facing a threat or an opportunity. Difficult decisions must be made to put matters in good shape. The false comfort of a financial bandage must come to an end, because we are risking short-term comfort in place of sustainability in the long term. We have already taken the direction of retiring expensive, unsustainable consumption subsidies in favor of investing in production, while cutting off the fat in the national budget to eliminate wasteful and irrational expenditure to produce savings which will finance urgent, critical interventions. We continue to live way beyond our means, with an unsustainable proportion of our revenues going to servicing debt. Under these circumstances, critical government services cannot be provided adequately or at all, owing to budgetary constraints. Similarly, essential projects cannot be undertaken for the same reason of unavailability of adequate resources. The implementation of our government's plan for rapid and inclusive socio-economic transformation of our country depends on a robust revenue growth rate and a well-managed budget deficit. We do not have the luxury of gambling with our destiny by living beyond our means, and neither can we afford to fail in implementing the public finance management agenda that we have. I note the steady growth of revenue mobilized by the Kenya Revenue Authority since 2020, and I congratulate the Kenya Revenue Authority for this effort. While this is encouraging, the active tax base remains far short of its potential. Maybe you clapped too early. At the same time, it indicates the willingness of taxpayers to meet their obligations under a fair, professional, and facilitative framework. The upshot in sum is that there is evidence of tremendous scope to expand our taxpayer numbers by engaging eligible and willing taxpayers. It is time to do the fair thing by supporting patriotic taxpayers who fulfill their obligations by reducing the number of free riders and enlisting more taxpayers to the national building project. A huge obstacle to the realization of our national revenue targets is that in practice, tax administration has traditionally been a repressive, menacing affair which resembles extortion. This extinguishes taxpayer incentives and diminishes the prospects of an expanded tax base, pulling Kenya backwards from its national revenue potential and denying its citizens critical services and development programs. Tax revenue mobilization is a crucial dimension of state sovereignty. The ability to finance national budgets defines true national independence. Those taxpayers who continue to perform their duty of remitting due taxes advance this agenda, thereby engaging in exemplary performance of patriotic duty. A day like this is therefore most appropriate for appreciating and indeed honoring the contribution of those outstanding individuals and corporate citizens in safeguarding, upholding, and enhancing Kenya's sovereignty. I salute you, and on behalf of a grateful nation, I celebrate all of you. It is important to let you know that your commendable contribution to national self-reliance, sustainable development, and citizen well-being is noted with profound appreciation. To signify our appreciation of these distinguished taxpayers, we must move decisively and efficiently to increase the number of taxpayers of all categories and steadily push the tax base towards its full potential. We have no choice, given the facts of our national financial situation, and it also happens to be fundamentally a matter of fairness. No single taxpayer who is eligible should be left out from this obligation, because every exemption denies Kenyans the right to benefit from national resources and is unfair to the loyal taxpayers who do the right thing. It is not an accident that revenue mobilization, though improving, remains far below its potential. The taxpayers' apathy is rife, or that countless potential and actual taxpayers are terrified of the Kenya Revenue Authority, with several even traumatized by the sight of its officials. Revenue leakages, collusion between evaders and KRA officials to subvert revenue administration, a culture of raids, extortion, disruption of taxpayers' operations, and obstruction of business are some dimensions of a wrong culture, robbing our citizens of shared prosperity. I have discussed these issues with the management of the Kenya Revenue Authority. I have discussed these issues with the Commissioner General. I have brought to his attention many of the practices that go on at the moment. For example, we are selling 2.9 billion stamps for our excisable products, while our neighbor, Tanzania, is selling 7.2 billion stamps. Uganda is selling 9 billion stamps. Those two economies are smaller than ours. It means we should be selling between 10 billion and 12 billion stamps. But the trouble is, the government is selling 2.9 billion stamps. There are people who are selling the balance, which is approximately 7 billion stamps. And I have told the Commissioner General he must tell these people to stop. And we have no choice. Because I do not want to fight with people, but they must stop. I want to tell the good people in KRA, good people, you must stop. Because I have given enough information to Commissioner General to sort out that mess. And I have told him if he doesn't sort out the mess, I will sort it out myself. and we should be able to collect enough money. We are determined, and let me repeat, we are determined to effect decisive change in order to swiftly reverse this unsatisfactory state of affairs. The practice of citizen harassment as a means of tax administration is unacceptable. In the past, revenue collection registered dramatic growth. This was as a result of an effective national mobilization strategy which appealed to our fundamental values and identity and employed citizen education, engagement, and facilitation. Revenue then accounted for 18% of our GDP. In more recent times, the tax administration instruments have been weaponized to achieve objectives that are extraneous and inimical to enterprise continuity, investment sustainability, due process, and the rule of law. The consequences are painful to contemplate. Our GDP has risen to Kenya shillings 12 trillion, yet KRA only raised about 14% of GDP in revenues last year. In the past, KRA was able to raise 18% of GDP. If we collect the same target today, then we would have raised an extra 400 billion shillings. In that case, I expect KRA to raise at least 3 trillion by the end of the next financial year and to double the current collection in 5 years. Let me repeat, for the avoidance of doubt. I expect Kenya Revenue Authority to raise 3 trillion by the end of next financial year and to double the current collection in 5 years. I can see the Commissioner General recording. Let me repeat it again so that you get it right.